Hey, this is Joe Sanfilippo. You're listening to the Geekcast Radio Network.
Hey, it's Mistress Carrie, and you are listening to Studio 2009.
Lieutenant, would you like to turn around? I don't want to corrupt you.
There is nothing wrong with your podcast player. Do not attempt to adjust the volume. Hello and welcome back into our studio. You are now inside Studio 2009, only on the Geekcast Radio Network. I'm, of course, TFG1Mike. Joining me once again is that good old detective, Dave Draper. Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm good, sir. How are you?
Pretty good, pretty good. It is a Friday. It is a very long Friday for me. I have a bunch of stuff going on, but when you find people are hearing this 6 days from now, hopefully all that'll be done. Yes, this is...
You should make it 7 days. Well, you can't because you got the timing, but you could make it 7 days, and then it would also be a Friday.
Yeah, could be.
Put it on Friday, and we play it on Friday. See?
Yep. That's the way we work around here, folks. This is episode... No, not really. This is episode 119 of Studio 2009. Today we continue our journey as we put our trench coats on and jump back in time with Columbo.
Put a little country music on the tape player?
No. God, no. We'll get to that in a minute.
And that was, because that was like central. That was probably the most TV thing ever. Mm-hmm. Was like, we need country music. And it's like, okay, this is TV version of country music, which is twang, 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 twang. Okay.
Yep. We're looking at the blueprint for murder, as these are the Columbo files here inside the podcast. And as always, we're starting at the beginning. And I'm going to mention this here and now. Unfortunately, when we get to the next season, Tubi got the first two episodes flip-flopped for season 2. So there's that. I'm going to have to talk to them about that. I'm going to have to send them a nicely worded message on Twitter.
Physical media for the win. Woo!
Yes. I agree. I will never not agree with that, but for ease of use and financial reasons, Tubi is a good resource. All right. So, I almost said prescription. Blueprint for murder. Elliot Markham.
I want to point something out real quick because this is it's the second shot of the episode. First shot is the car.
Yep.
But what's the second shot? Shoes.
Yep.
I thought that was funny because you posted some things on Facebook, like some clips of Peter Falk, which you talked about in the last episode.
Yeah.
And how like his Emmy, was it his Emmy award? No, it was the questionnaire by Bernard Pivot for Live Tour on Inside the Actor Studio. When you go to heaven and you meet God, what do you want God to say to you? And he says, how much you pay for those shoes? Yeah. Which is just weird because that's a Columbo line that has not come up in the first season.
Yeah.
So
it will eventually, though. And
it will. Yeah. It'll come up.
And it seems like no matter how much research I do into Peter Falk, that Columbo, like we've talked for 15 years, folks. Not Dave and I necessarily, but on the Geekcast Radio, we've talked 15 years now or so about how certain actors or actresses are a central role. That's what they're known for. Like, they do other stuff? Yes. But they're known for, and literally...
I mean, I think there are very few actors that are not locked into a specific role. That's kind of like the double-edged curse of being an actor. I mean, Leonard Nimoy... God, I can't remember the guy's name. The fourth Doctor from Doctor Who. All the Doctors from Doctor Who.
Yep.
All kind of. I can't remember. My brain is the guy with the big curly hair.
Tom Baker.
Tom Baker, like really resented being typecast as Doctor Who and never came back until the 50th anniversary, I think. The one with War of the Doctor, Time of the Doctor. The one with Matt Smith and Tennant. Yep. John Hurt. And that was, oh God, I went crazy in the theater. And Jason was like, what are you getting excited about? And it's like, because it's Tom freaking Baker on Doctor Who for the first time in like 40 years.
Yeah.
But a lot of, actors do get sort of typecast in a, even if they go on to other roles. I mean, Mark Hamill will always be Luke Skywalker. Even though, like, there's a generation that knows him as the Joker.
Yep.
But he'll always, Harrison Ford has actually had a very broad career, but he'll always be Indiana Jones and Han Solo. I think that's very common. And Columbo was so. I mean, the impression I get was so Peter Falk, where he wasn't. He was playing a role, but he wasn't. I mean, he was being himself, playing a role. You know what I mean? Because there are actors that act, and there are actors that are kind of themselves. Like Tommy Lee Jones is kind of always Tommy Lee Jones in every movie, and he'll be known for The Fugitive. Where it was very all his clothes were Peter Falk's clothes. Falk was a smoker, but he smoked cigarettes. But like Columbo smokes a cigar. That might even be Falk's actual damn car. Who knows?
I'm gonna have to do research on it now to find out.
But I mean, yeah, I know.
That would be cool as hell. Yeah, that would be cool. He
bought the raincoat in New York City when he was visiting at one point because it was raining.
Yep. This episode, folks, surprised me in the information because usually this happens 3rd season, 4th season, 5th season of a television show where the stars get to go behind the camera. Peter Falk directed this episode. I was like, no wonder why I like this, because it's done by the guy with the character. And there's so many character moments in this. So many good ones.
So there's also a lot. This episode is very chock full of, if you watched TV in the 70s or reruns in the 80s, there were a lot of familiar faces, including the victim, Forrest Tucker, who was one of the original Ghostbusters. So back in the day, there was a TV show, and I actually, because I'm old, I actually watched it. And then the movie came out like 10 years later.
Right.
And became a big hit. And all of a sudden there was this cartoon. And I was like, wait a minute. This cartoon reminds me of this show I watched when I was a kid, because it was owned by the same company. And they were like, hey, we did a TV show called Ghostbusters. And they actually gave Columbia the rights to use the name.
Yep.
But they were like, let's capitalize on the sudden popularity of Ghost. So there was a TV show in the 70s called Ghostbusters, which had Forrest Tucker and Larry Storch and Bob Burns in a gorilla costume. And it was a wacky Saturday morning TV show where it lasted like 4 episodes. They went around and went after ghosts. And then in the 80s, they did Filmation did a cartoon version of it, except it was their kids. And they had sci-fi aspects. And apparently they had really cheap, crummy toys that are now worth all the money, which is why the cartoon for the movie is called The Real Ghostbusters. Yep. Because they wanted to distinguish it from Larry Storch, who was also more famous for F Troop than Ghostbusters. But I just thought boy, that really knocked it for a loop when I was like, he's the first Ghostbuster.
Yeah, and that show got 15 episodes.
I think 15 were made. I'm not sure all those aired. I think like 3 or 4 aired.
Well,
there's a lot of that back in the day.
Again, take with grain of salt Wikipedia. It says original air date, and it has all the original air dates, and I don't see anything here in this article saying that it didn't be circles. Nope, that's just home media. So, I don't see any information saying only certain episodes aired yet, but I could be wrong.
What was the date on that?
75.
Okay, so I was 4 years old.
Yes, you were. Let's see. Okay, so this series is unrelated to the '84 film.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
And it's unrelated. Yeah.
They're Ghostbusters, and then their names were Spencer, Tracy, and Kong. And Forrest Tucker played Kong.
Yep.
And Tracy was the gorilla, played by Bob Burns, who was a guy who was known in Hollywood for owning his own gorilla suit. I believe he was also Robot Monster.
So this says that 15 were produced. It does not. Usually on Wikipedia they'll say that it's 15 were produced, but only X number aired. I don't see a line here saying only X number have aired or did air at the time in 75. I don't know. It is what it is. It's funny because I just got a notification thing I got to check and whatever, but Looney Tunes, Daffy Duck's Quackbusters is hitting either Blu-ray or 4K media release next year. I love the Quackbusters episode. Anyway, So Columbo, Markham, and Williamson, and there's a moment in this where I almost thought I heard Columbo say Mr. Williams as in Mrs. Williams from episode 2. He didn't. He said Williamson. I just heard it wrong. I just heard him say it too fast or something. But basically, Elliot Markham, who is an architect with vision for a city of the future and a penchant for classical music, his latest project is being bankrolled by the young wife of Bo Williamson, played by Forrest Tucker, a wealthy industrialist who has been away on a lengthy overseas business trip. When Williamson returns and finds out how his money is being spent, he is furious. So basically, the crux here is Markham likes classical and Williamson likes country, and classical country is not a thing. At least it wasn't back then.
No. That's literally a line. That's literally a line in the episode. Is they don't go together.
No.
Which I mean, it's for TV. Like it's fine. I mean, I actually have on my radio. I have a country station, but it's like for Willie Nelson and Johnny Cash. Like who really weren't around back in the early 70s. Like I said, their version of country music is so blatantly stereotypical. Guy drives out of the city. The music on the soundtrack is twang 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 twang. Like it's practically dueling banjos. It's the most cartoonish reduction of hee-haw possible, as opposed to like Willie Nelson or Johnny Cash or the more modern Shania Twain or So, but yeah, like it is because Forrest Tucker plays like they never say how he got his money, but I always kind of think of it like a Texas oil man, He's very, very Southern guy, because he's got like what's his hood ornament, like a bulldog or something?
Yeah, it's something like that.
He's got a big Cadillac with like a big animal hood ornament. I never quite caught what it was. But yeah, he's that big Texas oil man guy, and he just got back from Europe and finds out that his wife is funding Williamson City and throws a fit, and we got real quiet in here. And then the architect guy kind of like that was kind of that was a weirdly effective moment. Is Williamson gets in his car and like is fumbling around for something, and he leans over, and you see the guy sitting in the back seat.
Yeah, you see the guy before he sees him. Yeah.
Yeah. Way before, like.
Oh yeah.
Like ridiculously before he sees him, because he backs up, and it's like.
You're not turning your head far enough back to see, sir. Yeah.
And I'm like, I mean, I kind of feel like if I got in my car, I would notice someone sitting in the back seat. But anyway,
oh yeah,
it was a nice shot.
Yeah, absolutely. The beginning of this I really liked because, again, what I'm liking about all the various episodes of the show is how each of the beginnings is slightly different. A lot of the times we will have a music cue or a music stinger or something. In this, it's just city noise, silence, car noise, silence, and him with his tap shoes, with his dress shoes, and there's no music. There's nothing until later. And I thought that was really cool and interesting for the beginning of this. And of course, architect, construction site, well, that's where the body's going to be. But it's not. But normally you would assume that, people in construction,
when they really belabor that idea of, hey, they dug a big hole and then filled it with concrete the next day. And boy, that'd be a really great place to bury a body.
Yep, absolutely. The the brother-in-law attorney that again you've talked about before about Columbo mentioning his family. He brings up his brother-in-law. That's interesting. They did the whole, well, you haven't found a body. You don't have anything concrete.
Well, okay, to explain that, the whole thing is Williamson explains that in his will, if he dies, the money goes to his wife eventually, but it's in a trust, so she lives off the
interest.
Interest, yeah, sorry.
Yep.
Yeah, which nowadays would be nothing. But anyway, but the point being, So he's got to, if he's still alive, she can spend his money, as long as he doesn't stop her.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole thing is to kill him, but make it seem like he's still around.
Mm-hmm.
So he hides the body, not to get caught or have an investigation, but because he wants people to think that he's still alive and that the wife can still fund Williamson City.
Yep.
And the whole fly in the ointment is that he had an ex-wife, Goldie, who he was still close to, but she's very casual about it. He felt like he was important enough that he needed like a trophy wife, a new model.
Mm-hmm.
I know more about Bo Williamson than that little lady will learn in a lifetime.
Yeah, but
Lover, take my word for it, he has shuffled off this veil of tears.
Well, how do you know that?
Because he always calls me before he leaves town, and this time he didn't.
Yeah, but if he didn't call you, how do you know he left town?
I spoke with the child bride.
You mean Mrs. Williamson?
The current Mrs. Williamson. I call her the next ex. Oh, don't get me wrong, lover. She's half my age and twice as pretty, but I like her. Oh, Bo reached the point where he thought he needed a younger woman, and she's better than most.
I gotta say this for you. You got a pretty healthy attitude.
I can afford it. He pays,
This was the 70s, people. So she's surprising, and he keeps her very well anyway. Keeps her in gold lame. They're still very close. So she's convinced he's gone, and then they find the car at the airport, suggesting that he had gotten on a plane and flown somewhere. And that's the whole crux of the thing is when Columbo gets in the car. Although, what was weird, because I've seen this episode before, and I know that was one of the twists.
Right.
It's weird that by the time you see Columbo in the car, he's already playing the country music.
Yep.
Like, because you really should have shown him get in the car and turn on the classical station first.
Yeah.
Because when the architect takes the car to the airport to get rid of the, to leave the car there as bait, he's listening to his classical records or his classical music. So that's like the thing is Columbo gets in the car and hears the wrong kind of music. He notices all the tapes are all country, all the presets on the radio are country, but supposedly the one thing that was on the radio when he got in, which we don't actually get to see, which I feel is a little bit of a flaw. I mean, the episode's great anyway, but like because I was looking for it, I really noticed it. You should have seen him get in the car and turn on and it's country music. Now, when he's in the car, he's playing with the radio and he goes back to the country music station. But just pointing that out, nitpicking a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you're right. That's the thing about that scene is the music is all over the place and other things. I really like how this episode. I like the filmmaking of this episode. I like the thing we mentioned earlier with the guy with Markham in the back seat, and we see him before Will Williamson season. I like the way that's done. Goldie's a character.
Goldie is a character. She keeps calling Columbo her lover. I think that's just a term of affection.
I understand. I get it, but I was like, okay, I haven't met a lot of people like you, Mrs. Goldie.
It was the 70s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it was a different time, my friend.
I know. I wasn't there. I didn't live through it, but I've heard stories.
I was a wee baby, but
yes,
a wee baby watching my Ghostbusters. But another thing that is, it turns out he has a he has a doctor's appointment.
Yep.
They find out, and so Columbo goes to the doctor, which is played. I can't remember the actor's name, but it's another Bob Newhart connection because he played one of the recurring patients on the Bob Newhart show. And he
John
was
Fiedler.
Fiedler, probably.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about that is he gives Columbo, he's a heart doctor, and he says, oh, no, this was a very important visit. He should have gotten his power cells. I love how he says power cells instead of batteries.
Yeah.
Power cells, his pacemaker needed replacement, and it was a big deal. And he also now what's interesting is he kind of criticizes Columbo for smoking, and Columbo stopped smoking in that episode.
Yep.
Until the very end, and even then, he pulls out the cigar and doesn't light it.
Yep.
So it was, and this is the final episode of the season.
Yeah.
So there is this interesting note that the season ends on with him, kind of, because spoiler alert, he goes back to smoking the cigars.
Yep. Yeah, so John, let's see how they say to pronounce his name. They don't do a pronunciation here. John Donald Fiedler, whatever his name is, played the doctor in here, yeah.
Fumbler.
He was juror number 2 in 12 Angry Men in 1957.
Okay.
He was, and this kind of, I don't remember this. I guess I should remember this, but I don't. In 1974. Oh, wow. Okay, well, I guess he's the voice for a while then.
He's the voice of Piglet.
Yeah, he played Piglet in many...
Up until like the 2000s, I think.
Yep, pretty much, yeah. Pretty much up until he died. The last one he did was Pooh's Heffalump movie in 2005, because he died the Heffalump Halloween movie was a posthumous release. I didn't know who did the voice of Piglet.
I knew that he was the guy from the... He's kind of probably... I mean, with this generation, probably not. Like, the younger kids don't know it, but he was a recurring character on the Bob Newhart show. He was a very, I assume, popular character. He was the nervous one. There was one guy who was the mean one who probably will end up on Columbo, because they're all on Columbo, apparently. But yeah, he was one of those guys who was in a lot of stuff. I mean, like this whole episode, like I said, Forrest Tucker was in a lot of stuff. They were guys who of that era were in a lot of things.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, Forrest Tucker. Like when I was watching this and I saw him, I'm like, okay, I know you're not Larry Hagman, but I really got
I'm laughing because he's kind of a J.R. Ewing type.
He's very which is
funny because it's like 5-6 years before Dallas.
Yeah.
Actually, this is 71 because I keep going to 73. This is like almost a decade before Dallas. Dallas was 78, 79.
Yeah, 78.
Yeah.
But between these two guys, and it's not because I'd seen this episode twice, but between Forrest Tucker and Patrick O'Neill, I'm like, okay, it can't just be this episode. I have to have seen these guys, not necessarily together, but in something else. I remember these actors, and
I was about to make a joke about how Patrick, this was one where the victim to me was more memorable. Just me personally, like I know who he was, as opposed to like the killer. I was like, who is this guy? I don't recognize him for anything.
Yeah. I recognized the shows that he was in an episode of The Twilight Zone. He was in an episode of The Alfred Hitchcock Hour, Outer Limits, McCloud 2 episodes. He was in the Doris Day Show for 3 episodes, Barnaby Jones 3 episodes, but I didn't watch. He was in if we ever do a Murder, She Wrote podcast, folks, because apparently that's what we do around here now. He was in 1 episode in 85.
Hey, this was your idea, Spunky.
I'm not. It's not a complaint.
I was all for it, but I mean, I'll be like, well, I guess this is my life now. I talk about old TV shows. Okay.
No, I'm not complaining. I had a good friend of mine message me the other night on Facebook saying, how dare you do a Columbo podcast without me? And I'm like, you have said nothing to me about your love of Columbo, so I don't know. And I told the dude all about the details and how we were doing it and whatever else. So it is what it is. Yeah, I love these two guys facing off against each other between Markham and Williamson. Yeah, love them. Yep. And even the wives, Goldie and Jennifer, or whatever her name is.
I remember. It's funny. I remember Goldie, but I don't remember the other wife's name.
Yeah, it's Jennifer Williamson, something or other. And even the two of them with their interactions, and they even go out to say it, like you said. Essentially, he went out and got a trophy wife, kind of thing. But they each had their own relationships, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and I was half expecting, because this usually happens in any television show, I was half expecting the ex-wife and the current wife to go, catfight each other, because that's what society has taught us. Kind of show. I understand. I'm happy that Columbo's not that kind of show. I think that
sort of thing would have been more late 70s, 80s kind of thing. Cat, like the cat, just the cat fight in general. Like the 70s were still like the 70s were a weird time because we were coming out of the 60s, but particularly on TV, there was still that sort of I don't know the word, the conservatism.
Okay.
I mean, even Columbo, remember the episode with the art critic? And the weird painter guy was a weird painter guy. He wasn't like normal guy being a hippie painter. It was presented as being kind of weird and amusing. Yeah. I mean, you gotta I'm sure at this point, I think by this point, married couples beds had one bed on TV shows, but it was still just the idea of having a cat fight on TV was probably considered tacky. I don't think they would have done that until the late 70s, early. But someone will go, oh, well, this episode of Car 54 or
whatever.
I can't even remember. That they had a cat fight in that one, but Columbo's not that kind of show. But the relationship was interesting.
Yes,
she was more of a mentor to the new wife. Yeah, more kind of more of a maternal kind of thing, like an older sister, rather than rival. An enemy.
But again, that's what makes this show so interesting, is because they write characters like that who normally in today's society, after 44 years or however many, whatever you want to say, for me, it's like, oh, we've learned it's usually this that writers go to, or usually that writers go to, or usually a certain type of whatever between two women as far as, fighting.
But this episode was also written by Steven Bochco.
Exactly.
Is a very, I mean, he's a legend for a reason.
Yes, he is.
And nowadays, shows are written by just people like kids out of school. Yeah, who don't have life experience. Yeah, who a lot of it is they don't want to tell a story. They want to I don't know, the level of writing quality in most modern media is pretty poor. I mean, you can still find excellent writers, but as a general rule, it's very, and to be fair, we're picking out a gem of the era.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I was born in 1971. I don't know what other TV shows were like from 1971. They could have been bad and clumsily written and shoddy and cheap. This was written by Steven Bochco, who is a maestro of the genre. So the characters are a little more complex and a little more sophisticated, and a little more interesting than they normally would be. This is why in 2024 we are talking about fucking Columbo.
Exactly, because there's nothing in 2024 that I would rather talk about.
Honestly, well, I mean, honestly, like particularly in 2024, go back about 10 years and there's stuff that maybe I would have been more excited to talk about, but nowadays there ain't nothing.
I mean, Bochco, since we're talking about him, started his filmography starts in, and again, this is probably it's movies and TV, okay. Pre his production company, so pre Steven Bochco Productions. Started in '69 with The Bold Ones, The New Doctors, Rich Brockelman, Private Eye, Paris.
I'm sorry, just Brockelman is an amusing name. In my opinion.
Yes, it is. Paris from '79 to '80, so that was a short-lived show. Hill Street Blues drama. He's got
that was a great show.
Yep, absolutely. Bay City Blues, creator of LA Law, hello, Hooperman, and then under his production company, Doogie Howser, Cop Rock, Capital Critters, NYPD Blue. NYPD Blue.
NYPD Blue. Oh yeah.
Yep. So absolutely. I absolutely love. And who's the other guy? The other Steven. It's Stephen J. Cannell. Yes. Yeah. I was thinking every time. Sometimes when I see Bochco's name, I'm like, A-Team? No, that was Cannell.
Cannell did like a lot of the action '80s TV shows.
Yep. And yeah, this one may be very kind of straightforward. There isn't too like the final.
You say that, but like the whole thing is that he's manipulating Columbo into digging up the piling of the building, and frankly, very obviously so. He's practically double dog daring him. And I love the sequence when Columbo goes to like the
the permits office.
Office, and there's just a big long line, and it's like, okay, now you got to go to this big long line, and it's cheese. It's very Columbo.
Very Columbo. And that guy, the guy behind the counter, it's lunch hour.
Yeah.
I thought Columbo was just going to turn around and just stand there with his back to him and wait, but he actually walked. It's a funny thing watching Peter play the character, because the tics, as I've mentioned already so far, the tics that the character has, like sometimes he'll walk so slow that you think he's just going to stand there, and other times he'll do things you don't expect, and that's cool.
Yeah.
What else about this one?
Well, I mean, the twist is that the architect basically has the body stashed somewhere, and nobody's found it so far.
Yep.
And he basically gets Columbo to dig up the pile. The pilings are like the support things for the foundations of giant buildings.
Yep.
And I actually kind of thought it was funny that like there's an early scene where they're I don't know what they're, because they've already started like digging and putting stuff in for the building, but it's like a ribbon cutting ceremony or something. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But it's like this big ceremony for like the hoity-toity.
Yeah, it's a press thing. It's a publicity thing.
Is it a press thing? Because like
because the press is there. Because
the press is there, but like Columbo doesn't have an invitation.
No,
they're all like
yeah.
And I'm like, you see the building behind him. You see like a model of the building behind him. I'm like, it's just a square. It's just a big gray rectangle with windows. Like, this guy is not IMP. This guy is not,
Well, that's what it was to start. The point of that was for them to unveil to the, I guess, other people that were there, investors, invitees, whatever, plus the press, because he called the press. It's basically to announce Williamson City, even though they barely built a single building at this point.
Well, I'm just saying the building itself is very pedestrian looking.
Well, yeah, again, because they were going to have Columbo come in and
no, but he didn't have that. That whole was like,
right,
like manipulating Columbo into digging. He hadn't met Columbo yet. This was just the little press. This is a little. He invited the press later when he's digging up the piling. Okay. What I'm talking about is that early press conference when Columbo first appears on the show. Like he's wandering down that big pit.
Yes.
He's having a press conference for the groundbreaking of this building. What I'm saying is that the building itself, it just was very dull.
Yeah,
like,
it was very
he's
dull.
like this brilliant architect, and like the building was just, I can't remember the guy's name. I don't really know architecture, which is sad because we've got Springfield. We've got like this building by this guy who's like one of the most famous architects in the world. I can't remember the Dana Thomas house. I can't remember the guy's name. But point being,
you said the Dave Thomas house?
Dana Thomas.
Oh,
house.
Dana Thomas.
Well, I could look it up.
That's what I'm doing.
Okay. Well, I guess my point is there's a big deal made out of this guy, and he does not seem all that visionary or artistically gifted.
Yeah, no, he's not. Like he can put the model together, and it looks
the
cool.
model is of a boring thing.
I know.
And like it was funny because like his model of they're in his office, he's got like a little scale model of Williamson City.
Frank Lloyd Wright.
He's got a scale model of Williamson City, but when they do close-ups, like all the buildings are like little like rectangular chunks of styrofoam. And I was like, okay.
Because he probably has no vision.
Well, I'm just like, as someone who's dipping his toes into Warhammer, like war gamers do a better job building model battlefields and cities, and it was just like unpainted chunks of star. I know it's a TV show and blah blah blah.
Yeah, no.
It's just like I've been to conventions, I've been to gaming shows where like you look at this table and it's like a little tiny Western city and it's all beautifully painted, and I'm like, damn, son, your city looks like the floor of my basement after I get like a shipment of something. It's just chunks of styrofoam. I could do that. If I ever say I could do that, it's an indication that this is very low effort and very minimally artistic. If I think I could do it, and I could do Williamson City.
Yeah, I think the thing is that with Markham, his reputation precedes him, kind of thing, where the reputation of the person, and then you look at the person and you realize, like, they need help.
I think the argument is he's a better salesman than an architect.
Yes, exactly. That's what it is. Yeah. He can sell you on the idea of it. He's a good marketing guy. Like you said, he's a good salesman. He can sell you on the idea. Whether it gets built to the way the idea looks that he's selling you is another thing.
Yeah. So anyway, the point being that Columbo ends up going to a great expense and killing at least 2 days worth of standing in line to get the piling dug up, and there's nothing underneath there.
Nope.
And so Markham uses this as an opportunity to get the body out of storage, which must smell wonderful, and take it down, and he's going to like bury it. And he's going to do what Columbo, what it seemed like he did initially, which is bury it under the piling. And of course, Columbo had like manipulated this whole thing to make him pull the body out of storage.
And the storage, he stored it in Williamson's stables.
Yes. which probably made it smell even better.
Well, I mean,
there's nothing like horse poop and rotting flesh.
Yeah, I hope nobody's.
I haven't had lunch yet.
I was going to say, I hope nobody's eating lunch when they're listening to this podcast.
Yeah.
Horse shit and decaying human flesh. Don't you just love it, folks? Oh boy.
Although, because there's a nice part where, Markham is like, I should have left the body where it was, and I'm like, yeah, you should have, because nobody found it. And Columbo's like, bodies have a way of always turning up, and and Columbo basically says, look, I knew you were manipulating me, but I had to play along to get you to get that body out of hiding. So.
Yeah. Yeah. No, this one was good. This
one was
one. Really. Yeah. This is a nice way to end a very short. And again, these are.
Well, again, remember the show itself had like 3 different. It was the concept was it was a different mystery movie of the week.
Yep.
So there was Columbo, and I don't remember who the other ones were in the original run, but they were like it's like a third of a season.
Yep.
So those 9 episodes were a third of the season.
Yeah, and again, well, my point in saying that is that the nowadays we now have third of a season with streaming stuff because specifically with Netflix, because Netflix is like, here's 8 episodes here, wait 2 years. Here's 8 episodes here, wait 2 years.
Well, I mean, if you're lucky, if you're Stranger Things, like otherwise, here's 8 episodes here. Oops, you got canceled. Oh, was the season finale a cliffhanger? Jupiter's Legacy. Oopsie doodle. I think even Wednesday got canceled, didn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that was a huge hit.
Yeah, I think it did. But that's the thing. Like we're talking about this old television show at a time where television was very interesting and very to the we hit like you keep saying about the 70s. But to me it is because
we're talking about Columbo,
right?
But what I'm saying is like, what are the other shows that were airing in 1971? Or maybe it's like talking about Star Wars. What were the other films that came out in 1977? It's like you're talking about talking about Infinity War. What are the other films that came out in 2019? Like we're picking a gem. And
yes.
But what I'm saying is, can you really make an extrapolation of all the other shows?
That's my point. That Columbo is in by itself. You can lump it in with Perry Mason. You can lump it in with other detective type shows.
Like a decade before.
I understand that, but I'm saying you can lump it in with those kind of things, or you can have it stand out and say, hey, this is something cool, interesting, and fun. This is something that's going to then start us down a path of how television evolved from the 70s into the 80s, because you look at, and you're going to kill me for this, but it's
I'm not going to kill you, but I'm like Columbo is so unique.
Absolutely.
It's hard to say that it like Hill Street Blues is a traditional cop show,
right?
Which is done very well. Mm-hmm. And then God, I can't even remember the name of the show. But like
Homicide.
There has no, not Homicide. Homicide was another traditional cop show that was done extremely well.
Right.
I was going to say the New York one that we were just talking about that Bochco did. NYPD Blue.
NYPD Blue. Yeah.
I mean, that was a traditional cop show with butts.
With one specific ass.
No, they had everybody's butt got shown eventually. Even Dennis Franz's butt got shown eventually.
Yes, but his ass was the first ass, I think. I'd have to go back.
No. What's his name? The guy who quit. Caruso's butt was first because Caruso was considered a good-looking guy at the time. And then they had the Francis butt was like the third one because he was hooked up with the DA lady who was attractive, and we saw her butt. And like it was a very butt-oriented show.
Yes, it was. It was a butt full of television, or a television full of butts.
I don't even know if we got Jimmy. We probably got Jimmy Smith's.
Probably, yeah.
Before his heart gave out, and it took him like 19 episodes to die.
Oh, for a second there, I thought you were going to say before we had to, go all the way back to episode 1 and watch Jimmy Smith as Bail Organa.
No.
What I was going to say was, though. Yes, I completely agree with you. Columbo is very unique. It stands out on its own amongst everything else. And we have to do research to find out what that everything else was. Now, what I will say is, even though Columbo didn't have this, I would argue that, and this is where you're going to kill me because of the show and because of my fandom for it, Michael Knight is the Columbo of the 80s. David Hasselhoff and Knight Rider. Yes, there was more technology, but he's essentially doing the same. He's not doing it in the same way. He's not doing it with the same style that Columbo did it, and it's completely different because it's an action show more than just a.
Mm-hmm. I'm not going to kill you, but you're doing a good job on your own.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, it's nothing like Columbo. The character's nothing like Columbo. It's an action show, not a comedy. But you can see you can't. You yourself in like laying out your case are constantly going. So he's completely different, and it's a completely different kind of show, and it's all about technology and action rather than solving mysteries. But the one clearly led to.
No, it didn't lead to.
I think it's not video because my face is like.
Yeah. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. The point is that. I don't think there was a plan for television. I don't think in the 70s there was a plan for anything. And by the time you got to the 80s, you had 4, 5, 6 different action shows, all different types of stuff, and then we went forward. Again, going back to what you said with Columbo being a diamond in the rough.
Well, yeah, when you say there wasn't a plan, there's always a plan. It's whatever is popular, do that, but slightly different so that people watch us instead of them.
Somebody tell Kathleen Kennedy that.
but Kathleen Kennedy had like Force Awakens. Well, they didn't have an overall plan for the new trilogy. They didn't have a story framework, but they had a plan for Force Awakens, which was copy Star Wars.
Yep.
With more lens flare. But and then the problem was after the second episode they didn't really have it was like, we'll let you do what you want, okay, yep. but don't care about the consequences, woohoo! Which, as I said in that episode, was exhilarating watching in the theater, but it was because I assumed they knew what they were doing. Mm-hmm. It's like watching someone juggle chainsaws or juggling fire or swimming around with giant sharks, and you're like, wow, this is exciting. And then all of a sudden it's like they get killed, and you're like, oh, they didn't know what they were doing. Oops. It was like this was they were breaking all the toys and changing the rules, and everything was different. And there was that dumb little side thing on Kento Bite. But like, I was like, where are they going to go from here? And they were like, oh my God, where are we going to go from here?
Down the toilet.
And it was like, let's just throw that all out. Ignore that. Rose Tico, you're just going to stay here with Leia, who is CGI because she's dead, and don't worry about it. Ignore everything.
Yes.
We've got our X-Wings back. Thank God. Oh, God. We went a whole movie without X-Wings. Oh, no. Sorry. Columbo. I like Columbo. But what? I'm not going to kill you, but yeah, I don't think Knight Rider is the natural evolution of Columbo.
I didn't say it was. I was trying to say, I did not say that it was a natural evolution. I said
it was a complete...
It was similar in the fact that they're both
cars. They both have cars. That is true.
Yeah,
they're both detectives.
I mean,
tell me you don't know anything about TV but don't tell me you know it.
No.
Tell me you don't know anything about TV without telling me you don't know anything about TV.
Yeah.
A detective show. My goodness, that's a strike while the iron's hot on that one.
Uh-huh. Did you know that this is the only episode that Falk ever directed of anything?
No, I did not know that.
Yeah.
Of anything?
It says here this is the only episode of any TV series that Peter Falk directed.
I was surprised when his name came up at the end. I didn't know he directed this one.
I didn't know it either until I looked on the Wikipedia.
That's a hell of a thing. Like I know you want to do a season recap episode, but it's like that season started with Steven Spielberg and ended with Falk. Like that's a hell of a run.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else on Blueprint for Murder, sir?
I don't think so.
Okay. Alrighty then. Well, let's go ahead and the one thing I will mention, at least we actually get to see Markham in the back of a cop car. So going back to the whole thing of what happens to them after the fact of them just standing there before they get handcuffed kind of thing. So at least we are seeing that now with this specific episode.
Yeah.
Yes, we are definitely itching to watch the next episode now because...
Dog.
What? Dog.
It's the first one with dog.
Dog.
I'm so excited.
Yes, dog. Yes, we will recommend this to people. Grade 0 to 5. What are you going to give it?
You know, it was never one of my favorites, but I enjoyed watching it this time. There was some stuff that like I either didn't remember or I'm going to give it a 4.5. I think it was, I like the twist of the pilings and manipulating Columbo into digging him up. The comedy bits in the office, the bureaucracy office, me English good speak. I thought it was a really good episode of Columbo. 4.5.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. 4.5s all around. Yeah, this is, and it's funny because out of the 9 that we've had here, this is one of the ones that I would go back and watch. Like if I wanted to throw on because again, there are so many various little, like I mentioned earlier, little ticks, little things with Columbo himself in this episode. I don't even know how I'm going to even select all the best quotes kind of thing for this episode once I edit it, because literally I'm like, that's a quote, that like, do this, do that, do this, do that, whatever. But yeah, 4.5 all around. We're going to go to a quick podcast ad break and come back after this to close the show.
They're going to suspend you or something?
I don't know.
I'll buy you a drink. I'll buy us both a drink.
No, that's okay. Thank you, Goldie. You go ahead.
Hello, geeks and geekettes! Looking for a podcast that covers a vast array of topics? Then check out Altered Geek Unleashed, where we discuss our thoughts on this week's geeky news, tech, gaming, television shows, movies, cartoons, comics, and more. So, get altered, get geeky with the Altered Geeks. Every Friday on the Geekcast Radio Network.
Are you missing entertainment in your life? Welcome to Captain Ruggles Gaming. Whether it's guides, roleplay content, or our shenanigans with our collaborations with the 20 years standing strong Fart Clan, also known as Fast Action Response Team, or the Wrecking Crew, we have something for everyone. So join us when we traverse the cosmos of space games, survive the undead in zombie games, or just having fun in first-person shooters or random indie games. Visit us now at geekcastradio.com and youtube.com/@ Captain Ruggles, or Google search Captain Ruggles Gaming. It's game time, and I'll see you out on the battlefield.
Kid?
Yes?
Shut up.
Beyond the Night is the GCRN's latest review podcast. We are covering everything in the Knight Rider television universe, from the classic 80s TV series to the 1991 reunion film Team Knight Rider, and the 2008 relaunched series as well. So join TFG1Mike and Dion the Music Man as they go in-depth in Beyond the Night, only on Geekcast Radio Network. You can find Beyond the Night in iTunes and on www.geekcastradio.com.
Kid?
Yes, Michael.
Just keep driving.
Are you in need of what the heck did I just listen to? Are you in need of a laugh at the expense of the internet? Boy, do I have a treat for you. Here at Lyrically Audacious, we turn just about anything into music. Visit us now at youtube.com/@ Lyrically Audacious, all one word. So swing by, have a laugh. Stay lyrical, stay audacious, here at Lyrically Audacious.
On the Simplistic Reviews podcast, we talk movies. We talk TV. We talk.
Hello, Julie, what the heck are you doing?
Trying to make our spots sound more exciting by adding explosions.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you could have got the point across with sound effects, not the real thing. Car.
Download the show on iTunes or at simplisticreviews.blogspot.com.
I'm sure your insurance company will cover that.
No, they won't.
No, they probably won't.
All right, folks, we are back here inside Studio 2009. This is episode 119. Anything else you would like to say, sir, before I run through the closing?
Ironically, I do not have one more thing. So he still has not quite done that yet.
He hasn't done the full just one more thing or one more.
Excuse me, sir. Just one more thing. Just one more thing.
Yeah, he hasn't fully done that yet, but I'm sure he will.
Oh yeah, like it is interesting because you talk about other TV shows that have a long run, and there always is this thing about like the first season being kind of a mulligan. Like with The Simpsons, people don't really consider Simpsons, Star Trek Next Generation. Famously, first seasons are always a little off because they're still getting their feet.
Yeah.
So it is interesting that all these things that I use that royally, I kind of mean me, associate with Columbo are there, but they're not. Which has been one of the fun things about specifically watching it in terms of this is the first season. Yeah. Because I wouldn't really notice that they were missing if I was watching it like when I watch it on A&E. You wouldn't notice that he never quite goes, excuse me, sir, one more thing, just one more thing. Or, how much you pay for them shoes? Where do you get them shoes? The car, it's French. He still has not pointed out that his car is French yet. And I know he does that a lot. It's interesting that like the show is Columbo, but there's all these little things that I associate with it, which still have not quite come up yet. Now he's talked about his wife, he's talked about his brother-in-law and a niece who is either Marilyn or someone else.
Cindy. Marilyn or Cindy.
Yeah, we don't know yet.
Yep.
But yeah, it is interesting that like the show is there, but and apparently it won the Emmy.
Won the Emmy. That's amazing.
It's just not quite. At least what I think, it's not quite the perfect. I don't know how to say it. Like the platonic Columbo, platonic ideal of Columbo yet. Right. Now, and I keep making jokes about the dog, but the dog is kind of part of it. Yeah. So we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. We will definitely see. I think that's it. I don't have anything else. I will say that you are 100% correct as I looked into it, and unfortunately, I'm going to have to send them people a letter and a message about this. But for season 2, when we do start that, whenever that is, I don't know when that is right off the top of my head because, well, I'm not saying
okay.
But basically, so far as what I've noticed, that Tubi flip-flopped Etude in Black and the Greenhouse Jungle. because I was when I switched to it, I'm like, wait a minute, why is Greenhouse Jumbo first? That's not the way it's supposed to be. But yeah, so there's that, and then that's it for that one. All right. So that's going to do it for us. I don't know if we're going to do a season recap. I don't know if we necessarily need to do one as far as a specific separate episode. So I have no idea what's coming up next on the podcast because right now.
I mean, like, we can just take 2 seconds. Like, what was your favorite episode of this season?
Yeah.
Like right now. Like what?
Yeah, right.
Boom,
right
on the spot.
Right. Boom, on the spot. You always putting me on the spot, folks.
I will go for. It is a very basic Becky choice. But I do like Murder by the Book. I know that's I can't honestly necessarily separate it from the fact that Spielberg directed it because I'm a fanboy. Yeah. But I do like that there's the double murder and the whole thing about how Columbo's line about the first one was really good. That's how I know you didn't do it, but the second one was sloppy. Yeah, I think that's my favorite of the season.
For me, it's probably suitable for framing.
It's a good one.
Yeah, it was a really good one.
That's a fun one. Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. All right. Thank you for joining us here inside the studio. If you'd like to get in contact with us or leave feedback for the show, there are several ways to do so. Visit the website, geekcastradio.com, where you can listen to and comment on all of our content. Plus, we now have a brand new fourth wall store on the website. It is shop.geekcastradio.com. You can get all your holiday shopping needs done with our logos and other things. We've got t-shirts, mugs. There's like stickers and like gaming mats or something or other over there. We've got a whole bunch of stuff. Steve Megatron is doing an amazing job doing all that with the store. You can email us, feedback@geekcastradio.com. Just put in the subject line the show and the episode you want to give feedback for. You can check us out on all the podcasting clients that are out there, Apple, Spotify, etc., etc., etc. You can follow us on X at GeekCastRadio for the network, at It's Studio 2009 for the show. I am at TFG1Mike. Dave doesn't do social media.
No.
Become a fan on Facebook. Go to facebook.com/GeekCastRadio Network. You can also check out Studio 2009 podcast over there as well. Join us next time when we'll be doing something. Again, I'm in planning mode. I don't know. I've moved things around. It might be a movie. It might be this. It might be that. I don't know yet. Because for me, it's like episode 1 has to start on a 1. So it has to be 21. If we're starting season 2 after this, we're starting at episode 121 for episode 201. Okay. It's a weird neurotic number thing.
I mean, it bothers me to the core that I not only understand that, but kind of relate to it.
Yeah.
Like, I want to be a jerk about it, but like, I've got weird things like that too. So,
yep. So for now, I am TFG1Mike with
David Draper.
You'll hear us back in the studio soon. Oh yeah, and unleash the geek in you.
Say goodbye to Lieutenant.
Sayonara.
Sayonara, see.